Hello, my name is Robbie Tribble, and today I'll be talking about the growing impact of student debt on low income Americans. During the space race of the 1950s and 1960s, we as Americans funded college education with tax dollars to help us go to the moon and to gain the medical professionals needed for pandemics and our health. This funding, which comes in the form of Pell Grants, used to cover a much more significant portion of the cost of college. State resources allocated to college funding has declined over the last 50 years. In 1944, Franklin Roosevelt signed into law the GI Bill of Rights, which assured veterans resources for a college education. By the late 1960s and 1970s, many public state colleges were tuition-free in our country. This emphasis on education brought about a new economic age of technological and medical advancements. We often think of public education, at least in the K through 12 environment, as being a necessary good worthy of our tax dollars. The economic impact of college degrees shows that college helps significantly in economic growth, and perhaps we should fund a larger share of college costs to benefit us economically. This graph shows what bachelor degree holders earn compared to those with just some college. High school graduates and high school dropouts. Here, we have bachelor degree holders who make substantially more than just some college, and also high school graduates at the bottom and high school dropouts right above. I would argue the financial benefits we receive from attending college should be of utmost importance. Is it of utmost importance, though? On this same graph, we see that the 2008 recession actually worked out well for bachelor degree holders who earned more. Some college had slow growth, and high school dropouts and high school graduates saw a decline in growth. During the same time, states across the country were cutting resources for public higher education. These resources for higher education were not just cut during the Great Recession. Since the tax cuts for the top 10% in the 1980s, we've been cutting resources for public college education ever since. Since this combination of tax cuts for the wealthy and cuts to college funding in exchange for loans has happened, we've seen a near stagnant growth for the bottom 90% of earners, while the top 10% of earners have seen major growth. Most of the growth in our economy has come from these top earners. A new economic crisis in the coronavirus pandemic has seen a new round of state resources being cut for a college education. Every state has cut funding for a college education further during this pandemic, and funding never returned to pre-2008 levels even before the pandemic. So what has been the cost of this divestment from college? Today, we hold $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. This, compared to auto loan debt, which it surpassed in 2010, and credit card debt, which it surpassed also in 2010, has been a growing problem. The federally held student debt held by most of these people are subprime in nature, and income-based repayment programs offered by the Department of Education have more than tripled since 2014. Here you see 2014 and how it has tripled since. Income-based repayment is a repayment plan for people who cannot afford to successfully pay back the loans, and it's grown significantly in the past few years. Low-income Americans are the majority of those who signed up for this repayment plan. These people on these repayment plans will see accumulating interest and will not be able to pay back their student loans in most cases successfully. Here you see the lowest income earners and them on the income-based repayment option. The number of Americans over the age of 60 has seen their student debt load more than double in the last decade. And the issue of debt is worse for those going to college later in life. As we see here, we see those over 60, it increasing more than doubling. And as you go down in age, you see more growth in that area. This worries me specifically because I'm 38 years old going to college, and the prospects for someone like me paying back this debt is not too good. I have had my Pell Grant funding cut due to the coronavirus pandemic. I received help for my college cost with my Pell Grant funding for the first 3 semesters here at Glen Oaks, but I will not be receiving any Pell Grant funding in the fall semester. I made less money in my 2019 tax returns than in 2018, but the metric has changed for who's eligible for Pell Grant funding. So now I make too much money to get help with funding for college. I think more education needs to go into the cost-benefit analysis of college funding. We must hold our lawmakers, both Republican and Democrat, accountable for what I believe is the destruction of a robust economic mobility and growth in our country. When we educate, we thrive, and putting accruing interest on our future is not something I think we should be doing given the results we have seen from cuts to higher education. This is a very important issue for me, and thank you guys so much for listening.